Well, very good morning, guys. Fine. So last day was just talking about, we just been started up with the MVC architecture in the last class. And we discussed like what is MVC? MVC is a architectural pattern. It's an architectural pattern which talks about how to build a how to build an application, how to build a web application. Mainly, we use this architecture for web development. We use this architecture for web application development. Okay, so these are the various architectural patterns that are available in the market, and under this, MVC is the most popular architectural pattern what we use in the industry for web development, web application development. Now, yeah, I was explaining about the three components in the MVC: model, view, and controller. So first we started with controller. What is a controller? It's a class, and this class contains a set of methods in it, and we call them as what? Action methods. This class contains a set of methods in it known as action methods, and these methods are called by end users from web browsers. So to be clear, all these methods are called by the end users from the web browsers. From the browser, end users will be calling up these particular methods. That's what exactly the controller class is. And if at all you want to make a class as a controller, two things important. The first thing, the name of the class should be suffixed with the keyword controller. To tell it is a controller, not mandatory. It's not mandatory. The class name should be suffixed with controller. It's actually, if your class name is a demo, you better name it as demo controller. If your class name is a test, you better name it as test controller. Hope you guys understood my point? And the second important point is, all these controller classes must inherit from a predefined class. They must inherit from a predefined class. What is a predefined class? The predefined class name is also controller. The predefined class name is also controller, and this class is defined under the namespace system.web.mvc namespace. System.web.mvc namespace. So under that namespace, the controller class has been defined. Okay. And now under the controller class, what we define a set of methods, and all the public methods in the controller class are known as action methods. All the public methods in the controller class are known as action methods. We call them as action methods. See, here, if you just notice it, we define class, public class test controller. So my controller name is test. Okay, now? Under that, we are just trying to inherit the class from controller. So once you inherit, automatically this class becomes a controller. See, a class inheriting from an exception is an exception. Right? Same way, a class inheriting from a controller is a controller. Next, you defined a set of public methods in the class. You notice it, we defined a set of public methods in the class. So these are all the public methods what we defined. All these public methods, whatever we defined in this class, are going to be action methods. These are all action methods. Is that clear? How do you call these action methods? We call these action methods from the browser. From the browser. How do you call? HTTP localhost refers to default website. It refers to the default website. Under the default website, we created one virtual directory or an application under that with a name called as demo app. Just an assumption. We did not do that. Okay. So default website, HTTP localhost refers to default website. Under that, let us assume like we created one application or virtual directory. Both are same, right? So we just been created the demo app. Now from that, we are trying to call our controller now. What a controller name? Test. And what is the action method name? Salo. Test Salo. And this method is expecting a parameter. What is the parameter? An integer. An integer, and that integer can be passed out like this, /100. So now this 100 goes to the ID and the method gets executed. Same way, you're just calling the method called login. You're just calling a method called register, contact, about. So behind the screen, what happens, when the request goes to the server will internally create the instance of the class. Which class? Test controller class, and then invokes the method. So why I'm telling you this is, the big doubt we'll have in your mind is, sir, static methods only can be called directly, and non-static methods can never be called directly. You cannot call a non-static method directly. So if at all you want to call a non-static method, must and should, what is required? Instance is required. So, but you're not creating an instance, you're directly calling, yeah, you're not creating, but behind the screen, when the request goes to the server, server will create the instance of the class, and after creating the instance of the class, it will invoke the method for you. Are you getting my point? After creating the instance of the class, it is going to invoke the method for you in this context. Excuse me, can you on that? Yeah. So that's what exactly happens to you. It will create the instance and invokes the method now. So like we have different methods here, and all these methods are going to be invoked. See, a method can return something. If you observe the first method, what is the first method returning? String. The first method returning the string. So in this case, what happens, this hello world is directly displayed for you on the browser. The hello world is directly displayed for you on the browser. The hello world is directly displayed on the browser. But if you notice the remaining four methods are not returning a string. What are they returning you? They're returning a view. What are they returning you? A view. What is this view? A view is nothing but the presentation. It is nothing contain the presentation logic. It is going to contain the presentation logic actually. And that is what will be published for you on screen. Means that view is nothing but a web page here. The view is nothing but a web page containing all the presentation layer. So when I call this, that web page will come now and display for me on the browser. In the first case, the string is shown directly on the browser. In the second case, what happens? The web page will come and display for you on the browser. The web page will be shown for you on the browser actually. Am I clear? So which web page, sir? Which web page means we did not tell any name here. The name of the web page is login only. The name of the web page is the register. The name of the web page is contact, and the name of the web page is about. Means what is the name of the view? Our action method name is also very, very similar. We can change it. If we change, then we require to tell the name. Otherwise, no need to tell the name. Understood my point? So like this, we are just going to return the view now. So did you understand about the controller first? What is the second component? View. What is this view? A view in MVC contains the presentation logic. Which can also be called as UI, user interface. That is the UI, guys. That is the user interface. Are you getting me? Okay. The code in this view will be HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. So these three things we know. Yes or not? And along with it, with those three, we can also write C# code in it. So the extension of the view page is .cshtml. So what is the extension? The extension is a .cshtml. Okay. Most of the times, action methods of controllers will be returning these views. So most of the times, who will return the views? Action methods of controllers will be returning these views. So the name of view is generally the name of action method only. Generally, not mandatory. It is going to be generally the name of action method only, but it is still possible to change the names accordingly. Alright, we can change it, guys, but in general, what I'm telling is Your action method name, your view name will always be same. 90% of the times we do the same thing only. But option is there here, you can change the name. But if you change the name, then what you're required to do, when you're returning the view, you're required to tell that the view name now. Here did I tell the view name? I did not tell the view name. Why I did not tell the view name? Because my view name and my action method are going to be similar. But if they are not similar, then here I require to specify the name of the view I wanted to launch here. Are you getting my point here? Yes or not? So that's how you just define the action methods and the views and the relation between the action methods and the views. Okay? Users in MVC architecture, end users cannot directly call a view. End user cannot directly call a view page. He cannot directly call a view page. Okay? That is, the user's request should first be sent to controllers action methods, and then those action methods will be sending the view page as a result. Understand? In MVC, see, why I'm telling you this is, guys, you learned HTML. When you learn HTML, don't forget, you directly call the HTML pages. Yes or not? So by specifying the path or address of the web page, the complete name of the web page, you write in the browser and call it. Suppose your web page is login.html. You write login.html by giving the path and call it, and the page comes onto the browser. But in MVC architecture, the request will never go to a view page. The request comes to whom? The action method of the controller. The request first comes to the action method of the controller. Once the action method of the controller receives the request, the action method will now return the view as a result. So end user directly don't know what is the name of the view. See, today the names are same, but tomorrow I'll change the names. No, but end user will never tell the name anywhere. The end user will call action method. Now the view will come now and sit on the browser. Which view came there? End user don't know. Can't you see in the address bar? What you see in the address bar is the name of the action method, but not the name of the view. The extensions, nothing will be visible to the end user at all. Completely hidden. Are you clear? When you come to web forms, before MVC, what is Microsoft have provided us to build web applications? Web forms. In 2002, later on MVC, 2002 web forms. In web forms also, last day I said you, in HTML, what is the extension of a web page? In web forms, the extension of the web page is .aspx. And in a view page, our extension is .cshtml. Even in the first case or the second case, the complete page address is visible in the address bar. Suppose if it is web forms, then also we require to specify .aspx, the page name login.aspx and call it. Understood my point? So the page names are known to users. But when you just come to MVC, the view page names are never disclosed to users. User will call only the action method, and the action method will send the view as a result to the browser. Is the point clear? So are you clear with the second component? What is the second component? View. What will this contain? Look at the screen. What will this contain? Action methods. So user interaction always starts with controller action methods. Means, what is the first one? Every request should come to controller only. The name itself is telling you it is a controller. It will control everything for you. The request directly first comes to controller. And under the controller, what do we have? Action methods. So you're going to call the action methods that are defined in the controller. And once you're going to call the action methods, that returns your views. And talking about the view, what did I say? View contains what? Presentation logic. Okay. And the logic will be HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and along with it, we can also write C# code. All these things can be present over here. Generally .html means .html contains HTML, JavaScript, CSS. Now you're giving CSHTML. We have CS also. Means what is extra? C# code is extra. Suppose you're building up your application with VB.NET language, then it is VBHTML. Then it is VBHTML. Now you're building by using C#, so it is going to be CSHTML. So C# HTML is exactly the extension of it. Okay? How this view gets processed, we'll discuss about it. That's not the question now. So what we are talking is, what will controller contain, what will view contain. Understood? The third one. What is the third one? Model. What is this model? This is also a class. This is also a class that contains data logic in it. What may be data logic? What do you mean by data logic? Mainly, data logic in simple words, we can also say like the logic that is required for managing the data. Means saving the data, retrieving the data. Where do you save the data? In a data source, like a database or a file or somewhere. Retrieving the data, modifying the data, deleting the data, all that logic will be present in the model class actually. So what model class contains means, this class contains the data logic in it. Are you clear? The classes we define here represent entities. Array, in C# you learned here, what is it? Every application mainly deals with entities. Correct? So entity means any living or non-living object associated with a set of attributes is called as an entity. It can be a living object or a non-living object. If associated with a set of attributes, we call this as a entity. Generally, if you are building an application for a school, what are the entities? Student, teaching staff, non-teaching staff. Suppose you are building an application for a bank, customer, employee. You're building an application for a business, a retail business, customer, employee, supplier, who supplies the stock for you, all these are entities. So actually, the model classes, what we are talking here, actually what do they represent is, they represent you entities, means they are going to be classes representing the entities. Are you clear? Entities, here represent entities and their attributes. They represent entities and their attributes. Both these two things will be present for you over there. Am I correct? Okay, so that's what we define here, represent entities and their attributes. So, all data source communication will be done from here only, like selecting, inserting, updating, and deleting operations. Am I clear what I'm telling you? All data source communication will be done from here only, like selecting, inserting, updating, and deleting operations. Can you understand about data source? Data source means? Data source means database, huh? Anything that is capable of storing the data is called as a data source. Most of you completed ADO.NET and still you're putting blank faces. In ADO.NET classes, you learned it already. Data source means anything that is capable of storing the data is called as a data source. A file is a data source. Database is a data source. Still, in your mobile phones, you have address book. Storing the contact details. Address book. That is also a data source. Anything that is capable of storing the data can be called as a data source. Are you guys clear? So whoever can store you the data is called as a data source basically. So all data source communication. See, I don't know. User may store his data in a database, or user may store his data in a file also. Anything can happen. It's not like you're required to store data in a database only here. I can store data in a file also. So that's why I did not tell you database. All data source communication is what I'm using here. Will be done from here only, like selecting, inserting, updating, and deleting operations, which we call them as CRUD operations. What we call CRUD operations. CRUD means C stands for create. What is create, you know? Insert. R stands for read. What is read? Select. U stands for update, and D stands for delete. Create, read, update, delete. Actually, when we come to the modern environment, means in the latest, we never say insert operation. What we call as create operation. Why means in object-oriented programming, it is creating only. Inserting a record is nothing but creating a new record, creating something new. So that's why we call it as a create. Select is reading. I'm reading the data. Update is update only. Delete is delete only. So from now, we will not use the terminology as selecting, inserting, updating, and deleting. What we say? We simply say CRUD. Am I clear? What do we say? We say CRUD. CRUD means all the four operations will come into live now. Selecting, inserting, updating, and deleting. What we call as create, read, update, and delete. Now, did you understand about the model class? Yes or not? Now tell me, can the user directly contact the model? Can the user directly contact a model? Louder. No. User cannot contact a model. No. User cannot contact a model. Then the user request, as I said, you always will come to controller only. The user cannot call the view, or the user cannot call the model also. What the user can access? The user has access only to controller and action methods. Controller and action methods. Now listen, how this views comes into action. How this views comes into action, listen that carefully. What is that? When a request comes to an action method, controller's action method. When the request comes to controller action method. Okay, just see. This is the end user. Sends request to controller's action method. The request comes to controller's action method. When the request comes to the controller's action method, now action method decides what it decides, whether model is required here or not. Whether a model is required to process the request or not. Whether a model is required to process the request or not. If required, it will interact with the model. If not required, it will directly send you the view. Means, for example, you opened a website here. You just opened a website. Facebook. So when you open the Facebook, first what comes now? Login view will come now. What will come? Login view. Now the login view is readily available on the server or not? Tell me, the login view is readily available. It's a static page or dynamic page? Louder. Login view is a static page. Why? Login view is same for all now. So the login view is a static page. So when the request comes now, what happens now? The login page is the request now. What it will do? It will directly pick the login page. No need any model here. So directly sends the login page to user. Directly sends the login page to the user. No need any model interaction or no need to support of the model. Understood my point? Now the login page came now. User is entering the login details and click on the login button. When you click on the login button, the login page means when you click on the login button, the data goes to another page for validations. The data goes to another page for validation. Suppose the name of the page is going to be loginvalidation.cshtml. The name of the page is login validation. What will that do? That will do the login validation, means connected to database. Connect to the database now. Now after connecting to the database, it will verify whether the given credentials are valid or not. If they are valid, it will take you to home page. If not valid, sends you back to login page. Are you clear? So two pages are what we just have here. What are the two pages? One is login page. Second one, I'll say login view. Second one, login validations view. Login validations view. Is that clear? Now the user request came to login view. Does it require any model? No need. No need here. This doesn't require any model. So because it doesn't require any model, the action method directly returns the view to you. The action method directly returns the view to you. Is that clear? Okay. Now you enter the user credentials, click on the login button. When you click on the login button, now think like it is going to another page now. Which page? Login validations. It is going to the login validation. First it will go to the action method, or first it will go to view directly? Where it goes now? Action method. So first action method name is login. Second action method name is login validations. Are you clearer or not? Okay, these are two separate action methods. Let us assume, like, just a minute. I'll put it in detail so to be clear. So my class is account controller. Account controller. Inheriting from controller. Now first, public view result. What method? Login. Return view. Now the request comes to the user now. Come on, how the request comes? HTTP localhost, your application name, whatever is the application name. Suppose your application name is going to be some NIT app. That is your application name. Under that? No. Account login. Is that clear? So request is coming to where? Request is coming to where? The login. The request came to login now. What it returns? View directly. So here, do I need a model? No, I don't require a model for this. I don't require a model for this. Okay. Now the user entered the credentials and clicked on the login button. When you click on the login button, now it is hitting another. It is hitting you what? Another action method. What is the action method name? Louder. Login validations. Login validations is a action method. Now understand, this login validation action method requires the support of model now to do database validations. It needs a model to do the database validation now. Are you getting my point or not? What it requires? Model. Okay. So first, what will happen? Uses the model to perform login validation, okay, with a database or a data source. We need a model to perform login validation with a data source. Now you're going to get the data from the data source and do. Okay. Next, if validation is success. Validation success means valid credentials. Your credentials are valid. Validation success means credentials are valid. Credentials are valid. Are you clear? Okay. What will it do if the validations are success? What it will do? Watch carefully. Return view. Guys, like a return view. Home. Return view home. What is the meaning of it? It is returning you to the home page. It is returning you to the home page. What is the name? Home page dot CSHTML. That's a different one. The view now, home dot CSHTML. It returns you to the view. Which view? Home. Okay now? Else. Else means success or failure. Louder. Else means failure, correct? Else is a failure. When it is a failure, what it will do, you know? Return. It will return you back to the view. Which view? Login. See now, this action method is giving you or sending you to two separate views now. It is success. It is calling one view. It is a failure. It is calling you another view now. Why? If your validations are failure, again it will show you the same view to you. The login view will come back to you now. Are you getting my point or not? So this is how the code will be. Means you will be writing the model code in the action methods. So who will interact with the model? Views won't interact with the model. Yeah, action methods will interact with the models. Did you catch my point or not? Who will interact with the model? Action methods will interact with the model. Every action method will interact with the model? No. Every action method doesn't interact with the model. Yeah. All action methods will not interact with the model. Some action methods will interact with model. Some action method will not be interacting with the model. Means what I'm telling is every request I sent to the server doesn't require a model. Are you getting my point? Every request I sent to the server doesn't require a model. Some requests require a model and some request doesn't require a model. I'll tell you in a simple words. You went to a restaurant for having breakfast. Okay? You have taken a token in the counter for eating something. What you wanted to eat is, you just wanted to eat a general food like an idli or a vada. You want to eat like an idli or a vada. You taken a token. You went to the delivery counter. You went to the delivery counter. In the delivery counter, there is a person standing there and asking you, what do you want? You give a token to him. You give your token to him and you're ordering for some idli or vada or something. Now tell me, this idli and vada, are they prepared for you when you ask them? Tell me. No, they're ready. They're going to be ready. So when you ask them directly what it is, he will take the plate now, put like idli or vada in it and just gives you the food. Am I right? Yes or not? Means in this case, the food is ready, directly given to you. Okay, but you ordered for something like a dosa. You ordered for a dosa, something like a masala dosa, or you ordered for a pizza dosa. Okay, you ordered for something. When you go to the delivery counter and give your counter, is the dosa readily available to you? No, the dosa is not readily available to you. So the dosa is to be made because the different varieties of dosas will be there and it has to be made. You asked for a pizza dosa, so they should make the dosa. So what will you do now? The person will ask the master that there will be a dosa master inside the kitchen. They will tell to the dosa master to prepare the dosa. Correct? And that particular person, what is he going to do now? He'll prepare you dosa and he will send you. Am I right? Array, what I said you know? See, this one, in this case, do I need the model? The view is ready now? This is like just ordering for idli or vada. When you ordered for an idli or vada and you go there, directly it is given to you. Food is ready, served to you. The second one is like you're ordering for something like a dosa. The food is not ready. When your request comes, the food should be prepared and given to you. It should be prepared, and in this process, it will interact with the model, gets the data from the database, and it will prepare you and will just give you the view to you. Are you clearer what I'm telling you? Yes or not? So now in this one, can you tell me who is in our discussion about, I said you about all these things, what's it about like eating your breakfast and all. In this, can you tell me who is the controller? Louder. Okay, no. Not the chef. Array, the person who is standing in the counter and the person who takes your token. Your token is the request. Your token is the request. You're taking a token. That is your request. Where are you going? You're going to the delivery counter. And a person standing there now? Yes or not? The person who is standing there, okay, you call him as a waiter or a server, but the delivery person, he is the controller. He is the controller for you. Are you getting me? What a view. What is a view? The food what you ordered is a view. The food what you ordered is a view now. Are you clear? The food what you ordered is the view. You're just ordering for a food now. That is your view now. Okay, something, whatever it is. Now, what's the model? The master, the chef, the dosa master or the chef who is preparing the dosa is the model, is a model. Okay, see now you went to the controller, ordered for idli. Don't need a model now. Correct? The food is directly given to you. You went to the counter. You went to the counter, ordered for some dosa. You need a model now. That is the support of the chef is required. So request goes to the chef. Chef prepares. Now tell me, you as an end user, you as a customer, can you call the dosa master and tell me, prepare me a pizza dosa? Will he listen to you? No. You say him also, he won't listen. What he says? Ask the delivery person, not me. Understood my point? Same way, a user cannot interact with a model directly. The user cannot interact with a model directly. Can you go to the counter and just take the food, put in your plates and get it? No, no. It is not possible. Means what is the meaning? User cannot interact with a view also. The user cannot interact with a view also. Always should go and ask whom? The person who stands there, who is going to deliver the food. He is the controller now. He is the controller. Whatever you want, you should ask him only. The counter is very busy. A lot of people are there. So you called the master. You just made a whistle to the master and said, prepare me a dosa. He won't. Are you getting my point here? So what he says, everything should be in a queue. You should come in a queue. You need to ask the person who is standing there, and that person only will give the food to you. Is the point clearer or not? So that's what exactly happens to you in this case now. So I hope you understood now. Are you clear? So what is that? What are we requesting? What are we requesting? We are requesting for something. And that is the token you're carrying. You're carrying a token. Say for each type of food, there may be different color of token. A token is of different color. Okay, suppose you take a white color token, something like you're asking for idli. You take a blue color token, something you're asking for a vada. So based on the token, so that's your request. That's your request. Are you clearer? Yes or not? Okay. So what is the action method here? Who is the action method here? The person who is taking your order only. See, the food what you're ordering, the token what you're giving is the request for the appropriate food. You've taken a green color token, means you're requesting for, you've taken a white color token, means you're requesting for something like an idli. And that is your action now. The token what you're carrying there, you're sending a request to that only now. So the token what you're carrying there is actually the action. So based on the color of the token, the controller responds. Their name of the action method here, color. So simply we are relating it, so that's all. We are trying to relate it. So all requests should first go to controller. Yeah, controller, yes. No one can directly interact with a model, or no one can directly interact with a view also. Every request should go to controller. Without a controller, in case login action method to display username password, there also we are using model data properties, right? No, when you're validating, you require Sai Kumar. When you're validating, you require, not when you're launching. Okay. Yeah. First, the request goes to controller action methods. Controller action method. So action method is a part of the controller. When I say request goes to controller, the request going to controller is nothing but action method. But tell me, all the people are asking the same food, huh? No, different varieties of food. That's a different action methods. The different varieties of the food, what you're asking of the different action methods. You go now to the counter and you say idli. You're served with idli. So here, understand, our action method name and view name are same now. That's what we discussed now. Our action method name and view name are same, correct? So if that is the case, I asked for idli. That is the action method. What is given me? Idli. That is the view. Got the point? You went to the server and asked for idli. That is your action method. What is giving you? Idli. That is the view. Your action method name, your view name, both are same. Okay? So the point, finally, what you need to understand, everyone, is no one can directly talk with a view, or no one can directly talk with a model. The center point is always, who is it? Controller. Every request should come to the controller. The name itself is that here. What is the name? Controller. It is going to control each and everything for you in this process. Everything should be controlled from there, and from there the response comes to you. Is my point clearer, everyone? Any doubts? Understood clearly? So that's what exactly happens to you when your request comes to guys. I just posted up the complete notes. Earlier I just posted only introduction to web. I removed that and I just posted you the complete notes yesterday. Yeah, whatever I explained you, all these things like creating webs, creating how to host it on IES, how to install the IES, and second option, creating an application or virtual directory, how to do. I created 2 applications of virtual directories to you, and also how to create a website. Two options to you. One is changing the port number. Second one is changing the host name. 2 options I shown you. Both are given the notes. Creating a new site by changing port number. Creating a new site by changing host name. If you change the port number should be in the request. Are you clear? If you change the host name should be in the request. And finally, if you remember, finally guys, this is all what you have done. Under default website, you created site 1, application, site 2, virtual directory, icon difference. See, this icon for application, this is an icon for, and what are these two? These 2 are sites. Totally 3 sites are there. First site, I showed you changing the port number, runs on port number 90. Second site, I changed the host name, the host file, and how to change the host name is what I just explained to you. Singleton pattern is not there in the notes. It won't be. It's not a part of it. See, I just said you what is meant by a singleton pattern. I don't give a notes for that. Just Google, guys. I given an idea now. Google it. Try to make the habit of learning self. So once I give you some idea, based on that, try to improvise your things. Okay? And Jyoti, you need to contact the admin, not me. Contact your admin for your access to your Google Drive or the notes. I think the admin already posted the videos of the last 7 sessions. Yes, Arvind. Arvind is your admin, and here are the details. You can just check it out, scroll up and check it out. Here are his details and phone number, and how to pay the fees and all. You can just contact him. And these are the first 7 class videos, guys. I'll put the 7th video also in the Google Drive. MVC notes, I just put the MVC notes here, the complete notes, all the notes. Some 328 pages of notes is here. The complete notes, I just put it there. Okay. Guys, I'll send it to the Xerox Center also. All of you in the classroom, you can just carry a copy of it. You can carry the copy of it. Okay. So I'll just give him the latest update, mostly by afternoon or something. Just ask him, he'll provide you the notes. And these are the introduction videos. Yeah, all the 7 videos, I just put you there. Mostly another 1-2 days, let me give you the videos. Going forward, videos won't be provided. Yes, everything will be done from Visual Studio only. The latest. Otherwise, how do you write the code here? Without a studio, how do you write the code? We still did not jump into the programming part. That's what I'm explaining for you within the notepad. That's all. We'll write all code in the studio only. Okay. So fine. So this is about the design patterns, what I said you in the last class. And then we started with the architectural patterns, what we discussed, and the list of the architecture patterns. Yes. This is the picture, what everyone has to understand. Basically, the user request always comes to who? Controller. What the controller does now? The controller will check now. What it checks? Does this request require a model support or not? Does the request require a model support or not? No, not required. Not required. Controller directly goes to view, picks the view, sends to user. Are you clear? Controller directly goes to view, picks the view, sends to user. No. This requires a model support. You're asking, you're sending a request for a search operation. You're sending a request for a search operation. In a banking application, you're asking for the transaction report of the last 30 days. The last 30 days transaction report is what you're asking. So now, what will the controller do? The controller will send a request to model. Are you getting me? The model will connect it to data source. Gets the data from there, gives it to the controller. Listen carefully. The data is given to whom? Controller. What the controller will do now, you know? The controller will send the data to view. The controller will send the data to view. Creates a view, and the view will come now, and which will be given to the users. Are you clear? Understand. Web pages are 2 types. Static page, dynamic page. Static page is ready-made. Directly given. Dynamic page means not a ready-made page here. The page is created based on a request. When the request comes, then the page is created. That's what we call as a dynamic page. Say, you open a banking website, and in the banking website, you're asking, what are you asking? You're asking for the transactions that you made, the last 30 days. Does the bank know, today you will ask for a transaction report for the 30 days and prepare the report for you? No. So the report should be made on a fly, on a go. On a go means when the request comes, the report should be prepared now. So in that scenario, the controller will send a request to model. Model will fetch the 30 days report data and sends to controller. What will controller do now? Controller will send it to view. So the view is dynamically built now. The view is dynamically built. Means we pick all the data, we use a for loop now and show the data record by record. We'll write all the code here. Hold on, we'll just write all the code. So we prepare the view now. The view is ready. Now the view is sent to client. Login is there. Login, registration. Do you need to create the view there? The view is already created. So no need of creating a view. Directly take the view, give it to user, over. But when you come to a search result or something, a transaction reports or something, the views are not ready. The views should be prepared. So now the data gets pulled from the model, and see, the model will not send the data to view. The model will send the data back to controller. Controller will send it to view. Now the view is prepared, and now the view is sent as a output to the browser. And here the controller is only talking with the model and the controller is only talking with the view. And here you have a confusion. Sir, does the view and model interact directly? No, the view and model will not interact directly at all. Then if the view and the model are not directly interacting, what is this arrow mark representing, sir? Because what is it showing you here? This arrow mark is telling you controller talks with model. This arrow mark is telling you control talks with view. And when you look at this arrow mark, what we think now? View is talking with the model. No guys, view doesn't talk with the model. View will refer to the model. View will not talk to the model, understand? View will refer to the model and know what is present in the model. Are you getting my point here? When you are building the view, view refers to the model to understand. What to understand? What is present in the model entity? What is present in the entity now? Say, you are going to display the data of some students. What are the attributes of the student? You should know that the view refers to model to know what are the attributes of the student. ID, name, class, marks, fees, grade, section, something. All attributes it will refer. So looking at this, don't think like view will communicate with the model. View and the model and the view will never talk with each other directly. View is only going to take the model as a reference to understand what is present. See, in C# here, to all of you, can you call the content, can you call a method that is defined in another project? Can you call a method that is defined in another project? You can. What is the first step you need to do? You need to add a reference. You need to add a reference to the assembly, correct? When you add the reference to the assembly, did you notice it? The complete information of that assembly comes here. And when you say namespace name dot, will give you the list of the classes. When you create the instance of the class dot, it will give you the list of the methods, members. When you try to call a method, it will give you the complete information of the method, input parameter. Without knowing that, can you call that? You need to know that now. So exactly while designing the view also, we need to know what is in the model now. So view interacts with, so the model, the view refers to, not interacts with. I'm sorry, the wording is wrong. Doesn't interact with. The view refers to model to know what is present in it. So that based on that, the view designing process will be done. We'll see all these particular things practically, guys. Going forward, we'll show you all the things practically. Okay. So just have a look, all of you. Read this. And what is the MVC? What is this MVC? What is MVC? Will be an apt word. What is MVC? The model view controller is an which separates an application into three main group of components: models, views, and controllers. This pattern helps to achieve separation of concerns. What is separation of concerns? You're separating the work here, database code to one component, UI code to one component. Like this, you're just trying to separate. We call it as a separation of concerns. Okay? Using this pattern, user requests are routed to a controller which is responsible for working with the model to perform user actions and or retrieve results of this. Right, to perform a CRUD operation or fetching, whatever it is. The controller chooses the view to display to the user and provides it with the model data it requires. The following diagram shows the three main components and which ones refers to the other. So you can see this picture. This picture is telling you about all the three components story on this. Is that clear? Okay, fine. Next. The model. I read it. The model in an MVC application represents the state of the application and any business logic or operation that should be performed by it. Business logic should be encapsulated in the model along with any implementation logic for persisting the state of the application. Persisting the state means saving. That is saving the state. Basically, you have a customer. The customer data is in the database, but in the application, the customer data is in an object. The customer data is in a object. Which object? Model class object. Customer is a class. Instance of the customer represents the customer. In your ATM systems, you learned it, remember? For every customer, one instance is created now. That same thing only will happen here also. The same thing only will happen. It is represented in the form of instances or the objects. And you will also contain the code for saving, updating, deleting. All that code will be present for you inside of this model. Second, view. Views are responsible for presentation content through the user interface. There should be minimum logic within views, and any logic in them should relate to. Array, don't write business logics here. I want to check your already password are correct or not. Don't write that type of code here. Minimum volume of coding should be present here. And maximum what it says, it only presentation code. I want to use a for loop to show that to show the data record by record in a table format. Fine, that is presentation code only. Are you clearer? I want to write a if condition to validate whether the user is a valid user or not. That's wrong code in the view. Don't write that type of code in the views at all. What code should be present in the views? Only presentation code. No, should not contain any business logic. All the business logic should be sent to the model. Third one, controller. Controllers are the components that handle user interactions, working with the model and ultimately select a view to render. What is it selecting a view to render? Remember, yeah, always the same view may not launch. Just now I said here, if login is success, it is launching one view. It is failure, launching another view. Okay, so that's what in an MVC application, the view only displays information. The controller handles and responds to user input and interaction. In the MVC pattern, the controller is the initial entry point and is responsible for selecting which model types to work with and which view to render. Hence, its name. That's why the name, guys, hence its name. It controls how the app responds to a given request. It is basically responsible for all the things. How the application responds to a given request is completely taken care by the controller class. Okay. Now, how exactly this MVC came into picture? Okay, about the history of the MVC. And if you understand one point here, MVC is not a product of Microsoft. I already said you this point to you already. It's an open source architecture used by many companies to build applications. Initially, they developed this architecture in the 70s for building desktop applications, but later it became popular for building web applications. So mainly, MVC is built for desktop applications. See, MVC, traditionally used for desktop graphical user interfaces, and later this architecture became popular for designing web applications and even mobile and other clients. Popular programming languages like Java, .NET, Ruby, PHP, Python, JavaScript, and other have their own MVC frameworks that are currently being used in web application development. So to be clear, what I'm just trying to tell you is, see, this is not just for building only .NET here, not only .NET. In Java also we have MVC. In Python also we have MVC. In JavaScript also we have MVC. So MVC is not specific to .NET. It's not specific to .NET. You can use this MVC in developing web applications, in developing mobile applications, and many other things. Okay? And many languages have this MVC. I shown you this already for you, I remember. What is this? The language and the MVC framework. Java. What is the MVC framework name? Spring and Struts. If you heard the word about string and struts in Java, that is MVC framework. PHP. Cake PHP, CodeIgniter, Gen Framework, Laravel. All these are MVC frameworks only. Perl. Catalyst and Dancer. These two are MVC frameworks from Perl. Python, Django, Flask, Grok. All these are MVC frameworks. Ruby, Ruby on Rails, Nitro, JavaScript. Angular is also an MVC framework. And Spine, Angular and Spine. And when you come to .NET, you have ASP.NET MVC, ASP.NET Core MVC. What you know? The architecture name is MVCR, but everyone changed off the name. But Microsoft used the same name. Understood the point? The architecture is MVC, and everyone has changed off the appropriate name. But Microsoft did not change the name yet. Microsoft is still using the word as MVC only in this case. Is my point clear, all of you, what I'm telling you? Yes or not? Okay, so that's what. So we are just calling it as MVC only in this language. Okay, fine. Who designed it actually? Who designed this MVC? Trygue Ranscock. Trygue Ranscock introduced MVC into Smalltalk 76 while visiting the Xerox Palo Alto Research Center in 1970s or in the 70s. In the 80s, Jim Altoff and others implemented a version of MVC for a Smalltalk 80 class library. What is Smalltalk? Just like we say Windows machines, Windows, we say Microsoft means Windows. See, basically when you talk about Microsoft, what we say Windows systems. Same way, Smalltalk is also similar. A different company are, what's it? Xerox Palo Alto Research Center. From there, what they have is Smalltalk systems. Just like we have Windows systems. Windows systems came where? In 80s. Before Windows, Unix systems, Solaris systems, like Smalltalk systems, mainframe systems. That's what. So, actually, somewhere around the 70s, this particular person introduced the concept of the MVC actually. Okay, they introduced, means he has just prepared a documentation here. He prepared the documentation. If you can build applications like this, the applications will perform good. An idea. He just got an idea. Okay, but actual implementation of the idea was done by Jim Altoff. The actual implementation of the idea is done by Jim Altoff. For example, your father has an idea to build a business, to just set up a business. You want to set up a business, you want to do some business, but was not able to fulfill his idea, So once you come into a good position, you're seeing like, this is my father's dream, I want to do this. Are you clear? So your father did not do that. He has an idea. That's all. But the idea implementation is given by you now. So same way, who got the idea? Trygue Ranscock. Who implemented the idea? Jim Altoff. And others implemented a version of MVC for the Smalltalk 80s. Just like we call Windows 10, Windows 11, the same way they call Smalltalk 76, Smalltalk 80. Like this we just have. Next. MVC pattern is subsequently evolved, giving rise to variants such as hierarchical model view controller, model view adapter, model view presenter, model view view model, and others that adopted MVC to different context. Actually, based on MVC, there are so many childs. Under MVC the root here, under MVC there are so many childs. There are so many childrens. What are those? MVVM, model view, it's not, model view view model, HMVC, hierarchical model view controller, MVA, model view adapter, MVP, model view presenter. These are all like children. The root is MVC, under that these are children. So in that, in one scenario, I will show you under MVC how to use these children also. I will explain about this one to you. Under MVC, in one scenario, I will explain you about the MVVM architecture, that is a child of MVC. Root architecture is MVC, under that there is a child. How to use it, I'll just give you an idea. Okay, not give an idea, I'll show you practically. And others that adopted MVC for different context. For different context, they just adopted this MVC actually. Okay, fine. Next. Although originally developed for desktop computer, MVC has become widely adopted as architecture for web applications in major programming languages. Several MVC frameworks have been designed that enforce the MVC pattern. Already I listed you on the top. MVC pattern that are listed above. I just listed you all the appropriate things to you. Okay. So many companies have came forward and they have just gone for implementing this MVC pattern for you. And these are the list of the MVC patterns what we have. Okay. So going forward, the next thing what we just require to understand is in ASP.NET, How many options are there to build web applications? One or two? What are the two? First one is web forms. Second one is ASP provided web forms. Second one is ASP provided MVC. Basically, I want to give you an overview. I want to give an overview of the differences between the web forms architecture and the MVC architecture. Maybe some of you people may be finding it a little bit confusing in the initial stages. The reason is you don't know anything about web forms, you don't know anything about the MVC. So a little bit confusion. I'll give you an overview, but you will understand it much clearly, much better once you finish your course. Once you finish your course, you will understand all these particular things. So all these things are for your future reference, guys. For the future reference point, tomorrow someone asks in an interview, what are the differences between web form architecture and MVC architecture? You should not be just browsing over where can I find this information. That's why I just given you the complete list of differences that have between a web forms application and a MVC application. Okay, web forms and a MVC application. This is a big list of all the differences what we have. So in this process, in this particular process, what came first is web forms, right? What came next is MVC. Okay, just have a look at first one. ASP.NET Web Forms uses page controller pattern approach for rendering layouts. In this approach, every page has its own control. Let's code behind file that process the request. What is it? In MVCR, listen, all request comes to controller, and this controller will return you different pages. Pages are nothing but views. So one controller can be having 10 to 20 pages associated with it now. But for all the 10 to 20, the request comes to one controller only. Are you getting my point or not? But when you come to the web forms architecture, in web forms architecture, every page is a controller. Every page its own controller. Every page is its own controller. Something like in an organization, there is a manager. Under the manager, there are a set of subordinates. Are you clearer or not? So every request first goes to manager, manager conveys to the subordinate. In another company, no managers here. All employees are their own managers now. Are you getting my point or not? So that leads to, initially it may be good. Everyone is given equal importance. But that's not a good sign. There should be a central control. Are you getting my point or not? Everyone is always manager here. No one will no one will listen to others now. I'm also a manager. Are you getting my point here? So everyone is a manager. So everyone will be having their own attitude. Okay, they won't listen to others. There is no one on the top to control them. So that's what happens in web forms architecture. The web forms architecture, every page is its own controller. It is only controller now. Understood? But in the MVC architecture, what is it? There will be one standing on the front. See, there should be a leader. There should be a leader. Take a cricket team here. There should be a captain. If there is no captain, all the 11 people will come to toss now. And everyone will take each option there. One will say head and one will say tail now. One will say, I want to go for batting. One will say, I want to choose the fielding now. So do we have a control now? Tell me. But now see, your MVC is like a 20 controller pattern. What is that? One captain. Every communication should be taken by the captain. Captain is the decision maker. If he says set, that's all. If he says batting, that's all. After the captain says batting, no one in the team can oppose that and say, no, we want to go for fielding. No chance. He has taken a decision. That's final. Correct? So that's what we call front controller approach. So did you understand the difference I said here? What is that? Page control pattern approach for rendering layouts. In this approach, every page has its own controller. Every page its own controller now. Next. Uses what? Front controller approach. That approach means a common controller for all pages processing the requests. So tomorrow, no one can talk with the player directly. Everyone should communicate only with the captain. Can the umpire go to a player and say, shall I go for a review for a particular decision or something? He has to talk with whom? The captain. Are you clear? See, suppose you're applied for an LBW. Bowler request for an LBW. Can the bowler go to the umpire and just climb for for a third umpire decision? No. Who has to go for review? Captain. Captain should say. If the bowler goes or wicket keeper says no, they should communicate to captain. Captain tells now the umpire, we want to go for a review. So everything should be one single controller, what we have. Next. Lot of server-side interactions and postbacks. Basically, one of the major drawback in the web forms application, in web forms application, guys, mainly who are not aware of web forms, you are aware of Windows forms. The people, most, you don't know web forms, you must be aware of Windows forms, all of you. Most of you know Windows forms. In Windows forms, we have controls now. Yes or not? All controls are classes. In web application, generally, they use HTML controls. In web applications, what they use? HTML controls. But when you come to ASP.NET Web Forms, here, Microsoft designed this ASP.NET Web Forms architecture in a different way. What you know, in ASP.NET Web Forms, we don't use HTML controls at all. Without using HTML controls, we have our own controls just like Windows. Just like Windows Forms, ASP.NET gives you your own controls. And all these controls will run on the server side, not on the client side. Suppose, the best simple example I'll tell you. Reset button, in HTML. When you click on the reset, what it will do? It resets the screen. In this process, will it contact the server? Tell me, it won't contact the server now. But in ASP.NET, if at all you have a reset button, that's not a HTML button, that is a server side button. When you click on reset, then also it will go to server to clear the screen and come back. Did you catch my point or not? Then also, it will go to server, clear the screen, and again, comes back again. And again, it is going to come back basically. That is a major drawback for web application. Every time it will contact the server only. For every action, you go to server, come back, go to server, come back. That's what? A lot of postbacks. Postback means carrying all the data to server and again coming back. All this data will be going to server and again comes back to you. So that's what one of the major drawback in the web forms architecture. But yeah, very minimum postbacks and interactions. In this again, guys, we don't use any special controls like what we use is HTML controls. What we are going to use? HTML controls. If at all I want to reset, I don't require to contact the server. The reset operation is directly performed on the browser side, but not required to go to server side. So the postbacks are minimized here. The postbacks are minimized and very less interactions will take place with the server. And I said you guys, it may be a little bit confusing. I'm giving an overview, that's all. Don't be worried. So I did not understand. You going forward, you will. Because you don't know web forms architecture also, you don't know MVC architecture. I'm just only giving you a gist of the things. But once we go into that, then you will remember, okay, Sir said on that day, it's a less number of interactions and less number of postbacks, single controller. All these things you will summarize when we are writing the code. Okay? Third. ASP.NET Web Forms have file-based URLs, which means file name exists in the URL, which must be in the physical existence. Just now today morning I said you this one. The file name will be present in the address bar. Are you clear? The file name should be present in the address bar. In the address bar, you will be writing the file name. Got the point? So user can know what is the name of the page the request is going to. Everyone knows your page names. But when you come to MVC, can anyone know the page name? No one can know the page name here. See? Route-based URLs, which means URLs are divided into controllers and actions, and moreover, it is based on a controller, but not on a. I don't tell the address of the file in my address at all, in my address bar at all. I only send request to controller action method. What is the address of the page? That recognition is done by the action method. Where is it present? Which folder you stored it? All the things are not known to users. But when you come to web forms application, all the path will be present in the address bar. Which folder? All that information can be seen in the address bar basically. But you cannot see that in the MVC architecture. You store a web page under 10 folders. All the 10 folder names have been in the address bar now in the web forms architecture. But you don't require that in case of MVC. What you have? Controller name, action method name. Action method will search all the 10 folders, pick it, and returns to you. So the URLs are going to be minimized. The URLs are going to be minimized. You will be having a very minimized URLs in this case. This 2.7 years, in which technology did you work with? Spring Boot may be also MVC. I listed you few things, that's all. Atna Kumari, I already said you MVC is an architecture, and again you're asking, is it an architecture? I already confirmed yesterday. What did I say, guys? MVC is a architectural pattern. Yeah, you can climb. You can climb, man. You can just climb. Okay. So did you understand the first three differences? Okay. These are the first three differences. What we just still we have more differences. We'll tell you in this tomorrow session. So tomorrow we'll just try to complete this differences, and we'll try to see like what softwares to install, what you need, and how to write the codings, and all the things will start in the tomorrow session. Okay. Let's stop here, guys. We'll meet tomorrow. Yes, man. Yes, you will get a knowledge of. Specifically, there is no project here. But when I go to MVC core, I will show that complete application development like a mini project. The class is more Monday to Saturday, not Monday to Friday. It's not 5 day, it is 6 day. Yes, API also. Yes, same time, no changes in the time. Everything I show you practical in the classroom, you can just practice whatever I say. Everything will be in the notes, and you can just practice that. It takes 2.5 months to complete the course. Who said there is a new link tomorrow? Did I say that? Okay, Arvind told her, you just complete your payments and send him your details. He will add you, he will provide you the link. The new link will be given to you by Arvind. Arvind will give you. Before the link changes, all of you get added into Google Drive. I will post the new link directly in the Google Drive. And otherwise, Arvind will send you. For all the people, Arvind will send you. Nitesh, I provided all the videos on the top. You can check it out. All the 7 class videos, what are completed till now. Yes, through WhatsApp, they'll give you. Pritesh, these are the missing class videos. You can go through them. Yes. Still, how many demo sessions you'll be having? Demo sessions are over. Now, they're just going to add you into the groups and immediately change the links. Already you have 7 demos, 7 demo sessions are completed. Today is the 8th one. Day 7 is not there here. I did not save it. Okay. So these are the videos here. Just contact your admins for any further details. I'm not aware. Contact the office, please. Or refer to the website. Contact the office or refer to the website. Okay, guys. Let's meet tomorrow. Yeah, today is day 8. Today is 8th day.